Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, everyone! Welcome everybody to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me, have some more Christmas pseudo-themed RPG horror stories for today. I hope everybody have yourself a lovely Christmas. Unfortunately, I didn't have gifts prepared for today, but I suppose my best gift is the gift of more cringe. I woke up at 9:14 a.m. to try to do this video, so hopefully y'all enjoy. Either way, I hope everybody has yourself a lovely Christmas. Let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Also, apologies, I'm not doing it in VR. I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit eepy. Yeah, your boy Morrow is a bit eepy today. So we just gotta do it like this. Anyway, let's get to the first story for today. Wait, I thought you told him. Stories about me and two of my closest friends, who we'll call Frank and Jenny, and someone who used to play with us that we'll call Mike. Back in 2018, Frank and Jenny got in touch because we were all D&D players, and a friend of theirs called Mike wanted to learn how to DM by running Lost Mines of Phandelver, and that I want to join in. Things went well. Mike seemed like an agreeable sort, and over the months I met his wife and kid. Let's call them Pamela and Oscar, who Jenny and Frank sometimes babysat for during those sessions where we played at their house instead of Frank's. Towards the end of the campaign, Mike and Pamela separated, and Mike stayed temporarily at the same house Frank lived in. We finished Lost Mines, and I started a Spelljammer campaign with the three of them as players. Things were going well. From what I gather, Mike was a model housemate, and the campaign was going well. Then a couple of months in, the pandemic hit and we had to start doing things online. I used to be kind of a recluse, and as an essential worker, I still had to commute to work. So I didn't speak to any of the three outside of the game, but I didn't think much about it since you can imagine I had a lot on my mind. I went around to Frank's for Christmas dinner. It's a tradition we have since Frank usually working on Christmas. And while Jenny had gone home to visit her family, Mike joined us and all seemed well. Sessions were sporadic, but that was to be expected. Fast forward to March, and one morning on my commute, I ran into Mike on the bus. He left Frank's a while back, which hadn't come up during the session since, but I assumed whatever deal he had with the landlady had run out, and was staying at local men's shelter. He didn't have much to do, so he was either spending all day in the library, or like today, riding the buses just to keep himself occupied and warm. We didn't hang out outside of the game, but I didn't like seeing someone I liked and who seemed on level falling on hard times. So I resolved to the next time I saw him, I'd see if he wanted to sleep on my couch or something. Not long after, however, Jenny messaged me. Hey, I'm sorry to ask, but do you mind if I ask Mike to leave the group? I'm just worried that the child protection order is still in place. Social services might keep us from seeing Pamela or the kids. What? What did Mike do? Huh? What the frick? That first broken up in July, and I got the impression that was pretty hostile divorce, but this is the first I heard about social services getting involved. When they first separated, Jenny had mentioned that Pamela might not want her and Frank still hanging around with her ex, but nothing came of it. I messaged her back asking what was going on. It was then that Jenny finally told me why Mike had been kicked out by his wife. He had been arrested for downloading and uploading not safe for work PDF file content. I mean, obviously that's not what they said in the story. That's what I'm gonna have to say. That's the way I'm gonna have to censor myself. But what? God, I sound like Tim Allen from the Christmas movies. Huh? No, but seriously, what? That is insane. You know what? Yeah. You know what? That's completely fine. Yeah, if you don't want to hang out with Mike because he been engaging in PDF file content, that's completely understandable. You do not have to have somebody at your table or to welcome somebody to your table that is engaging in this sort of thing. And if you feel uncomfortable by their activities, specifically the fact that they've been arrested for it too, perfectly fine if you want to stay away from somebody that engages in PDF file content. That stuff is gross, disgusting, horrible. It's perfectly fine if you don't want to engage with somebody that does that. Thankfully not of his own kid. But the conditions of the bail meant he couldn't be near his family, and Frank and Jenny hadn't found out until shortly after Christmas. Once they found out, they asked him to leave the house, but for whatever reason, both Frank and Jenny had been each under the impression that the other told me what had happened, and for the last few sessions, I've been letting him play with us, having no idea what he'd done. I want to make it clear, I don't blame Frank or Jenny for this. We're all essential workers during the height of the pandemic with a lot on our mind. It was a messy, horrible situation. It may not have been clear at that point exactly how dead to rights Mike had been caught, or how long it took Pamela to tell him the full story. They both certainly didn't think I'd let him stay in our group because I was taking his side and all. Once I found out, I sent Mike a terse Facebook message asking him to leave. I was probably nicer about it than I should have been, as opposed to GTFO nonce. But in fairness, I never had to do anything like this before. He didn't respond. I eventually blocked him to be on the safe side. We finished the campaign with just the three of us. It's all water under the bridge now. I'm still close friends with Frank and Jenny, and I've not seen or heard Mike since. But it's still unsettling that I almost let a PDF file crash on my couch while we played D&D together. Here's the worst part about this situation. This could happen to literally anyone. I kind of was in a similar position at some point. I was playing Final Fantasy XIV, and I was engaging with a big, basically a guild, right? They're called free companies in Final Fantasy XIV, but it's basically a guild, right? It's a group of people that you get together with and you do activities together. Sometimes you raid together, sometimes you just, hang out and chill. It's basically your group. It's your social circle. You vibe together. Anyway, I was in a free company there. And there was a moment there was a specific guy there that was really nice and chill to play with, hang out with, talk to, and everything. It was really, really friendly. And then at some point he sort of dropped off the face of the earth, and I never really seen him before. And then somebody had to break me the news that that guy was also doing something that was a little bit PDF file specifically. Basically, he was talking to somebody that was underage, and he was talking with somebody in a more sexual manner that was underage, which is definitely not something you should do with a minor. So when it came around the time when the guy actually came back and started to reconnect with people, I specifically needed to make a decision for myself. I decided to myself that I don't want to have somebody like that in my social circles. So after confirming that that's exactly what actually ended up happening, that he was caught doing that, I completely cut contact with the dude. If you find out that somebody is engaged in gross and disgusting things, that's perfectly fine for you to not want to associate with them. Anyway, let's move on to the next story for today. I don't think I have much of comments, dude. This story was a flashback. What a way to start a video. Oh, let's get to the next story for today. DM threatens to unalive herself because no one wants to send nudes to her. So this story happened when I was around high school and still getting into TTRPGs. There's a particular system I loved based around Pokemon, referred to as PTU, that had a pretty small but passionate community. On the blog site for PTU, there was a post in LFG thread about the LGBTQ+ game that was recruiting players. Fantasy-themed adventures of all sorts of sexual orientations, gathering to fight big dungeon baddies with the Pokemon sidekicks seemed very appealing for a closeted gay kid like me, so I was very happy to have been accepted. There were 6 players altogether, 4 guys and 2 girls specifically. We brewed our characters and were eager to begin. Our DM was a very upbeat and seemingly fun individual at first. She was very sociable and supportive of our character builds, backgrounds, and let us get as creative as we wanted with it. For the first session, there seemed to be no sign of bad stuff happening. We started the campaign pretty mundanely. All of us Pokemon mercenaries were called together at a tavern to meet one after another and set off to adventure to stop the big scary dragon type of monstrous description from terrorizing the town. There were a number of NPCs in the tavern as well, and if anyone were to begin talking to them, the NPC would start flirting almost immediately. Not too inappropriately, mind you. It said LGBTQ+ friendly in the description, so it was expected there'd be some sort of dating sim element in it. What did start concerning us was when one of the male characters was groped by female NPC just for talking to her. Oh, right. Yeah, that could definitely make people uncomfortable because just so out of nowhere. Was this advertised as a more sexual kind of game, as a more exploration was of the body than it was of the, the forest and the woods and the caverns? Well, certain forests, certain woods, and certain caverns. Ahem, ahem. But was this advertised as a more intimate game, as a more romantic, as a more kind of like, not safe for work kind of game, or a little bit more, lewd kind of game? Or is it just assumed that it's going to be a little bit more lewd because it is LGBTQ+ friendly? I feel like that sort of thing should be cleared early on. Like if somebody wants to run a slightly sexier game with everybody just a horn dog NPC and they just want to flirt with player characters, that's one thing. I mean, some people just want to be able to play like basically D&D dating simulator, and there's nothing wrong with that, but advertise it early on and advertise that this is the kind of game so that people that want to play that sort of thing can get together, not people that just say, oh cool, I might see like a gay relationship in this game and I get to make a gay character and I get just to play. Oh, I'm being groped suddenly out of nowhere. I didn't sign up for that one, DM. What is going on? Things kind of escalated from there. The DM pushed for everyone to be paired up with someone else and heavily pushed for very descriptive and explicit scenes to occur as much as possible. The tavern was quickly turned into a brothel for the first hour of the first session. Not to be clear, I'm not trying to imply that kinky and sexual games are something to be frowned upon. It is something you and your party agreed to ahead of time, and you're all into it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. I was just surprised by it because there was no mention of such explicit gameplay in the initial post or in session 0. which is why we need to have these kind of things in session 0. If you want to run a more sexy, flirty kind of game, let the people know ahead of time that this is the kind of game so they can bow out early on if they're just not what they're looking for. Some people don't want to play dating sim or some sort of a sex sim when it comes to playing the D&D. They want to be able to slay dragons and goblins and solve puzzles and save the village or something, or pillage a village, depends on the kind of game you're running. Could be in like an evil campaign as well. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of romance in your game, but when it turns to basically just like a dating sim or like a hentai game, you should probably let your players know ahead of time what kind of game you're running. It was safe to assume the game wouldn't be explicitly sexual, as the PTU site we all used was 13+ age appropriate site with clear rules about not posting for sexual games. Since we never discussed it, it was reasonable not to be expecting the sexual content. And since the game didn't say 18+ only or anything, she risked having a minor in the campaign, and this whole thing would have turned criminal very fast. Luckily, all the people who joined happened to be 18 or older. I had just turned 18 a couple of months earlier, and I think I was the youngest of the group, so she was safe, but it was still a very dangerous game she just played. While the players were all surprised by this, none of them were specifically opposed to it, though we did ask for the description to be toned down a bit, which our DM reluctantly agreed to. I wasn't too keen on a super kinky gameplay, but I had plenty of actual core game elements in the campaign, and I really liked the build I've made, so I figured it wasn't a big deal and I could roll with it. Probably worth mentioning I was a virgin at the time, so trying to describe what my poor gay character did with an NPC was really stressful and embarrassing. How would I know what my character would do if I don't even know how to kiss someone properly yet? Well, with that hurdle overcome, we started getting into way worse territory. I don't know if this is a common experience for people, but from my own experience, when a DM or player tries to kick people into playing sexual content with them, it's usually relatively of the lack of sex they're getting in their own lives. And boy, was that the case with our DM. You know, the DM should have just like went to Steam, checked out the hentai section, and just got any of the smut from there. I mean, if you ever seen the Steam's hentai section, the various numerous hentai games the Steam has clearly available for them, there's a lot, and there's a bunch of different games. Hell, there's even some games in VR that I've played. There's actually a game that developers reached out to me for some time ago, forever ago, like I think 2 years ago, where basically it's a giant like RPG that you're playing as a main character in a story. It's literally the anime protagonist's main story campaign. The entire time you're basically going through this game and you're battling these monster girl waifus, and when you defeat them, you romance them, and then there's a whole banging scene where you're physically there in VR watching characters undulate their bits right on top of you in VR, and you get to fondle the bits as well. There's even a whole, I'm not sure people even know this, but there's whole mini games where you need to fondle them a specific way to get their rocks off and to finish the scene, or else the game is over. So it gets really elaborate, and all you had to do is just check through Steam instead of taking your fetishes to a D&D game and forcing everybody else in the campaign to be part of your fetish game. There's better ways to get your rocks off. Don't enforce it onto other strangers out there just to be part of your kink fest. In one of our game chats, she did nothing but try and flirt and demand all sorts of stuff you should never ask a player for 13+ Pokemon post board. She routinely asked for pictures of everyone so you could see how hot we all are, and anyone stupid enough to actually send her something would get non-stop attention from her. I was one of those guys. Keep in mind, I was very romantically naive at the time and didn't think there was anything with showing pictures of yourself online. The photo sent was a perfectly safe clothed picture, the kind you'd frame and send to grandma for Christmas. Hey, Christmas mentioned. In general, no one needs to know what you look like online, so I discourage any player ever sending stuff like this to anyone asking for it. They might not be able to do anything with a standard Facebook appropriate photo, but it's still like a green light for the requesting party to keep pressuring you to send more inappropriate photos later on, which is what happened to me. Yeah, definitely 100%. This is not a safe thing to do. There's nothing wrong with, like, I don't know, sharing a picture with somebody you know. It's like a one-on-one kind of thing. Let's say, for example, there's a friend you've had for years and you guys just never seen each other. When it comes to sharing your public information online, whether it's picture or name or where generally you live, you need to be very careful with that. Even if you are of age and fully like an adult and everything, you still should be very selective about the things you share with people. Some people, strangers, complete strangers, should 100% not be trusted. And even then, people that get to know a little bit. She's clearly too horned up and just wants to be able to look at people's faces, be able to fantasize about them, create those little imaginary like facsimiles of what the people look like and weird like fantasies in her head. Because I feel like generally the DM is kind of a loner, and she just wants to build this like parasocial relationship with somebody by looking at their faces and imagining in her head about, I guess, weird fantasies and fantasizing about people. You should still be very careful with what you reveal online. Any kind of personal identifying information such as name, address, general location, and especially faces, you should not be shown to people that are just complete and utter strangers. I don't care what the cute little Discord has for like, hey, face IRL section if you want to show off, but it's fully like, you know, voluntary. Still, you shouldn't do that. Doesn't matter. Do not reveal personal identifying information. The DM continued to insist in PMs and the group chats for pictures of me in inappropriate poses and states of duress, which I had no problem turning down quickly. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure this might be called grooming. I'm not fully sure if I'm using the word correctly, but I'm pretty sure if you're trying to get people to post for you and stuff and trying to get you to do specific things for you after you, like, you know, see the pictures and coax them in, I'm pretty sure this is called grooming, but I could be wrong because I'm pretty sure grooming relates to like doing stuff to underage people, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Somebody in the comments will be able to correct me, but I'm pretty sure this is like pseudo grooming behavior or manipulative behavior at least. Of course, she requested this for everyone else as well, but thank goodness no one in the chat was so shy or insecure to just do anything they didn't want to. We're all pretty unified in making it clear to her that while there was nothing wrong with pursuing a romantic interest, though the feelings were reciprocated, none of us in the party were really any interested in trying something like that. Again, we came here for a PTU forum for teens and young adults looking to play a game, not a dating blog. Also, just something that really bothered with this, her post for this campaign was tagged with LGBTQ+, so why was she surprised that the 4 guys in her party were gay? Sure, one of the girls was lesbian, but she wasn't really interested in any of the advances, and the other guy was ace, so she was especially not interested in any of the advances. Like, just putting LGBTQ+ in your game doesn't mean that everyone's going to want to sleep together. Sometimes we just want to have an environment where we can be safe ourselves without fear of harassment. Because some people, like this DM over here, doesn't realize that you can be straight, gay, bi, or trans, or whatever you are, and still just wanted to play a regular RPG. They think, oh, you LGBTQ+, you must be so horned up. Let's get sexy together, baby. My line with her came when she asked me to be her, I am so sorry for this, it makes me cringe just topping it out, master. She didn't mean just in the standard BDSM context. She was African American and had a very prominent race play kink, which made us all painfully aware of routinely. And being a Coldplay lover as a white guy myself, I was horribly uncomfortable. I set my foot down then and there. She knew I was gay. She knew I wasn't interested in any sort of relationship like that, and told her I was going to leave if she ever tried that crap again. I should have just left. You really should have. You really should have. But she started getting into a sob story about how depressed she was and that she was drunk, and begged us all to just give her another chance. Reluctantly, we agreed, but we definitely should have just left. Fools! You guys are fools! You guys are fools! You're falling for a manipulation tactic! This already confirms. This is a DM that is specifically set up a game just so they could explore their kinks and just be horny. And they're basically hoping that you guys are going to be just equal as horny as well. Want to engage in and just entertain her horny behavior. Master and race play kink. All of these kinky stuff that she wants you guys to do definitely should not be taking it to some sort of like a Pokemon RPG forum in the slightest. This is something where she should be exploring that stuff on her own in her private time, not with a bunch of people that want to play TTRPG and not just roll like Dungeons and D's nuts in your mouth. This is not a thing that you should be doing with just random strangers out there that want to play just a regular Pokemon-esque RPG. They don't want to engage in this thing, but she got you guys almost like in the clutches and using manipulation of, oh, I was too drunk, I was in the right headspace, please stay with me for longer, I'll be better, I promise. But she will not going to be better. She is not going to be better at all, and you guys are just falling, unfortunately, for a manipulation tactic. But you guys know it's a manipulation tactic. You even said to yourself you should have just left, and maybe it's, you know, hindsight 2020 and stuff, but still, you should have immediately followed that instinct. All of you guys should have followed that instinct, because this is not turning into what it's supposed to be, a regular RPG. This is turning into, hey, my DM is extremely horny and she is using manipulation tactics in order to entertain her horniness. Soon after that incident, she started having very dark episodes publicly. She would truly say that everyone hated her. She was ugly. When we told her that wasn't true, she'd lash out at us for not being interested in her and kink shaming her. Again, 5 of us weren't sexually into women at all, And the one person who was happened to be in a very happy relationship, side note, lesbian player, last married to her girlfriend, and not live happily ever after in a forest, telecommunicating to work, and I'm very happy for them and how awesome the lives turned out. She had these episodes about 3 times, each time threatening to unalive herself right then and there. And it became the entire group's responsibility to try to calm her down. She kept trying to imply she would be happy if one of us would date her. When we made it clear again and again that it just simply wasn't going to happen, she'd go right back into threatening self-harm. I'd finally had enough about the 3rd time and said, I don't appreciate being emotionally manipulated to doing stuff that makes me uncomfortable, being told if I don't, you'll unalive yourself. This does not go over well with her, as you can probably expect. This is the time to immediately dissociate with somebody like that. And here's the thing, I've ran into people that have done that on VR chat. Like in the first early days of VR chat, I've met a lot of people. And when you meet a lot of people, you end up meeting people that have, you know, reveal their hand one way, but instead of playing a bit more of a hidden hand on the other side, right? They reveal good intentions at first, but then as soon as you get close enough to them and they kind of get their clutches, their little manipulative clutches around you and, you know, treat friendship as a currency, as a transactional currency, then they start going a little bit heavy and a little bit hefty. Like if you don't date them, they'll suddenly be like, oh, I'm feeling so awful about myself. I think I'll like hurt myself if you don't date me. Why don't you date me? You better date me or I'll hurt myself. That's a manipulation tactic. That is 100% a manipulation tactic, and it shouldn't be entertained in the slightest. In my experience, people that actually are having darker thoughts, they keep it to themselves, and then it ends up happening, you know, you end up finding out about it when it's too late. People that advertise it and blast it out so loudly like this woman is doing, they're using it as a manipulation tactic because they want to try to force one of you to date her. And nobody wants to date her because they're either not interested in her or they're already like busy with somebody else. What this woman is doing is not okay. I know it sounds mean to say, but if you're ever dealing with somebody that's going to be manipulating you into this, they use this as a manipulation tactic, almost as a crutch to try to browbeat you or try to just beat you down and force you to just capitulate and take it. Do not let them take it, and the first thing you should do is put your foot down, make yourself clear like OP is doing, which is a good thing, and I'm glad they're doing it. But the first thing the party should have done is put the foot down and say, this is not okay, this will not be tolerated, I'm not interested in entertaining this. And if this continues, which it is continuing as I can see, that you guys should have immediately blocked this DM and not have anything to do with her in the first place. I know it sounds like a mean thing to do, but otherwise the only thing that will happen is a pattern of them constantly using this, unaliving themselves to try to manipulate you guys until eventually they get their way. Because what are you gonna do after eventually this? At some point you guys would break. Somebody would have to break and feel like, well, I guess somebody's gonna have to take one for the team just to make sure this woman doesn't unalive herself, which is horrible. What this woman is doing is absolutely awful and horrible. Do not let people manipulate you like this, no matter who you are. She just went off about how we're all sexist, homos, racist pricks, and kink shamers. 3 players were not taking any of that and just left right then and there. I was very prone to arguing with people, so I simply stayed just to contest their point. But in retrospect, that was a huge waste of my time. As you could probably expect, the game ended right then and there. Ended up meeting up with 2 other players afterwards, so we started a way more fun sci-fi Pokemon space adventure campaign after that. So we at least got something positive. But it was still a very early lesson in my TTRPG career to start recognizing some red flags early on. Do not let yourself feel guilty for drawing a line early. Remember, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, makes unwanted advances like a duck, it's okay to call it a duck. What a brilliant end to this. And of course, as always said, no TTRPG is better than bad TTRPG, especially with a crazy lunatic DM like this one. Make sure to keep yourself out there. Don't reveal your personal information out there. Don't even share a picture unless it's somebody that you can trust with your life. But be very selective and careful about the information you reveal out there online. You don't know who you're going to be dealing with. You could be dealing with a crazy lunatic out there. And who knows what she's going to do with those pictures, honestly. Who knows what she's doing with those pictures to this day? Who knows? This story is like, how old is this story? This story is like 4 years old. She could be still out there doing crazy things like that, some sort of other Pokemon-esque forum, which is insane to me. You don't know the kind of people you're going to be dealing with until you finally deal with them. And this person could still be out there doing something similar to this, which is absolutely horrifying. Anyway, guys, please stay safe out there and Merry Christmas. Out tomorrow, take it away. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.